Alright guys, welcome back. Alright, we're going to try these video notes again, since a lot of you guys requested to do them again, and I think it worked well for some of you. So again, when you get to a try it yourself part, that's when you pause the video and you need to check with me after you find the answers, and then once you have both of those answers right, or if there's more than two, you can go on to the next section. Alright, so we're doing day 2 of 7.5. Our I can statement is I can solve multi-step factoring problems. Okay, and what we're going to start with today is very similar to yesterday. We have a couple of simple polynomials that we just need to factor, but this time they're set equal to 0. Alright, so we have to do more than just factor. Alright, we need to factor and solve. Okay, so I can start by making my x. Remember, my 2, my last number that doesn't have a variable attached, goes up top. And then the coefficient of my normal variable with no exponent goes on the bottom. So two numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 3 are 2 and 1. Okay, so I figured that out. So now I can write my factored out expression. So that would turn into m plus 2 and m plus 1. Both of those are equal to 0. Okay, and then after that, we do what we did from Monday. So m plus 2 equals 0, and m plus 1 equals 0. So we set both of the expressions that have an m in it equal to 0, because we just have to get one of these equal to 0 in order for the whole equation to be true. So then I will subtract 2 from that. Alright, so then m equals negative 2. Subtract 1 from both sides on the bottom equation, and I get m equals negative 1. So I get my two solutions of m equals negative 1 and m equals negative 2. So I'm going to do the same thing on b now. Start by making my x. This one's a little trickier because we have to find two numbers that multiply to negative 14 but add to 5. So because I'm multiplying to get a negative product as my answer, okay, that means one of my solutions has to be negative and one of them has to be positive. So I'm just going to do my factors of 14 real quick. So 1 and 14, and then 2 and 7. And I'm going to look for the one that's 5 apart from each other. So 1 and 14 are 13 apart from each other. 2 and 7, however, are 5 apart from each other. So I need to pay attention. This 5 is positive. So that means my bigger number, the 7, is going to be the positive one. So 7 is positive, and my 2 is going to be negative. So with that in mind, I can turn that into x plus 7 and x minus 2, all equal to 0. So I can do the same thing as before. X plus 7 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. And then I'm going to solve for x in both equations. The first one, just subtract 7 from both sides to get x equals negative 7. And the second equation, I'm going to add 2 to both sides to get x equals positive 2. So just to rewrite my answer a little bit neater, this is my personal preference, is x equals negative 7, comma 2. And then there we go. So I want you to take a minute or two to go ahead and try these next two on your own. Alright, I will give you the thumbs up when you get both of them right. Remember, you need to find two solutions for both of them. Alright, if you miss one, then you still need to figure out that second solution. So go ahead, give that a try, and then you can move on to the back of the notes. Okay, so you've made it this far. So we're on the back now. And if you take a look at number A, you have a squared plus 5a minus 20 equals 30. Okay, so on the front, all right, our equations equaled 0, but in this one we equal 30. So just a rule of thumb, all polynomials must equal 0 in order to be solved. Okay, so that means we need to move this 30 over to the other side. And because it's a positive 30, that means I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. And then I'm going to rewrite my whole expression. All right, so negative 20 minus 30 gives me negative 50. And now, since those two things canceled out, that all equals 0. So in my new expression, now I can do my x. So I multiply to negative 50, and I add to a positive 5. Okay, so if I want, I can do factors of 50 real quick. So 1 and 50, 2 and 25, and 5 and 10. So like one of the problems on the front, I multiply to a negative number. So that means one of my roots is going to be negative. And then because my 5 is positive, that means the bigger number is going to be positive. So I have to find two numbers that are 5 apart. 1 and 50 are 49 apart. 2 and 25 are 23 apart. 5 and 10 are 5 apart. And then like I said, because the 5 is positive, that means my bigger number has to be positive. So 10 is positive. All right, when we write it out. So I have a positive 10 and a negative 5. So when I rewrite that as a factored expression, I get x plus 10 and x minus 5. That is all equal to 0. And then I can set up my two equations. If you still need to do that, it's perfectly okay. I'm doing it just for the sake so that everyone can see it. So in the top equation, we get x equals negative 10. And then the bottom equation, we get x equals 5. And then I'm just going to rewrite that as x equals negative 10, comma 5, which I did not completely show. Okay. So if we're good so far, we'll just keep going with one more example. Okay, so I have b squared plus 5 equals 8b minus 10. Okay, so I want to keep my b squared positive. So in order to do that, I'm going to move everything on the right side over to the left. So that means I need to subtract 8b from both sides. And I also need to add 10 to both sides. All right, so b squared stays the same. I didn't have any b's over here, so this is minus 8b. And then 5 plus 10 gives me 15. I set that equal to 0. I can do my x of 15 and negative 8. So I've multiplied to a positive 15, and then I add to a negative 8. So that means both of my solutions are going to be negatives. Okay, so two numbers that multiply to 15 and add to 8 are 5 and 3. And then, like I said, they both have to be negative. So negative 5 and negative 3. So to rewrite that as a factor expression, we have b minus 5 times b minus 3 equals 0. And then my two equations, b minus 5 equals 0 and b minus 3 equals 0. And then I'm just going to add 5 to both sides on the top to get b equals 5, and add 3 to both sides on the bottom equation to get b equals 3. And then I'm just going to rewrite that because it's how I like to do things. So I get b equals 3 and b equals 5. And that's it. So go ahead and give an attempt to the next two problems, okay? So remember, get everything from the equation on one side. Once you do that, all right, all the equations are going to be factorable, and they'll work out to be nice, easy solutions. And then once you get those two squared away, all right, you can go ahead and start on the homework. But this has been 7.5, day 2. Thank you.